Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review, and today we're checking out a brand new Institute weapon pack known as the Institute Arsenal Overhaul by Alexerator. Now this is going to add 4 brand new weapons into the Institute's arsenal. No longer is it just going to be constrained to a simple laser rifle and laser pistol, which are technically the same gun. Now instead you will get not only that, but 4 new weapons on top of that. Not to mention any other Institute weapons you download as well. Now, each of these weapons are very different from the last, and on top of the 4 weapons, you're also going to get 4 uniques that are scattered around the Commonwealth as well. As far as the base weapons go, you're going to get the Institute Defender, a sort of mock-up of the Plasma Defender from classic Fallout, but now with an Institute twist. You have the Sonic Emitter, the Tesla Cannon, and the Beam Rifle. A lot of these paying respects to past Fallout weapons, and a couple of these have their own unique new twists that make them very different from anything we've seen before. Each of these weapons is added to the Institute level list, so you will be able to find them in the Institute or during combat with synths and other Institute enemies. And of course, that means that if you're siding with the Institute, you can even purchase them from Institute vendors. Now, since there are 4 whole weapons in this pack and 4 uniques on top of that, let's go ahead and jump right into the stats and specific details of each of these weapons so we can get a real feel for what exactly you're getting when you download this mod. For starters, let's start off with the Institute Defender. Again, sort of based off of the classic Plasma Defender, but with an Institute twist. Another neat feature with all of these weapons in this pack is that they do use a new ammo type known as the Small Energy Cell, which again pays homage to that classic Fallout. Here we have a little energy cell, which can be reloaded with this weapon. Now then, this thing has a base damage of 28. It is only available in a pistol configuration, which I do like as this is a dedicated energy pistol. This does use those small energy cells, of course, a fire rate of 36 and semi-automatic, a range of 119, an accuracy of 142, a weight of 2.6 pounds, and a value of 225 caps. And altogether, I think this makes for a pretty balanced weapon. It has a pretty decent damage, but also a very rare ammo type, so you're not going to be finding it super common like you would standard fusion cells. Pretty interesting and nice to have the Institute using their own custom ammo type, as I think that makes a lot of sense. As for the Institute Defender's unique variant, we have the Plasma Defender. Again, a direct callback to the classic version, and this one is not modifiable at the workbench, as is the case for all of the unique weapons in this pack, but that's fine, because it comes with some pretty padded stats. This thing has a base ballistic damage of 30, and an additional energy damage of 70, giving you a total of 100 damage. Again, using those small energy cells with pretty similar stats to the rest of the normal weapon, except that this thing has a value of 1,125 caps. And as far as locations go, you can find the Plasma Defender in the armory in Fort Hagen. In terms of animations, the Institute Defender just does use the vanilla plasma pistol animations, but they look very, very nice. I like the iron sights, they look similar to the vanilla ones while still being unique. And as far as animations go, everything lines up really, really nice on this weapon. For the next weapon in this pack, let's talk about the Institute Beam Rifle. This is going to be a more refined laser rifle compared to the one in the vanilla game. This thing has a base damage of 50, which is a bit high, but it does use regular fusion cells instead of those small energy cells. It has a fire rate of 33 in semi-automatic, a range of 119, an accuracy of 63, a weight of a whopping 15.7 pounds, and a value of 159 caps. Now, unlike the Institute Defender, which spawns at level 5, the Beam Rifle here spawns after level 20, making it a bit more of a mid to late game weapon, hence the higher damage. And that damage can get even higher with weapon modifications over at the weapons workbench, as well as increases to your different damage perks. So this thing can get pretty powerful pretty fast. This is definitely going to be one of the better weapons in this pack, and for the Institute as a whole. Now, as far as the unique goes for this weapon, we have the Fridge Gun, and instead of fusion cells, this thing is going to use cryo cells, and it's going to do pure cryo damage. In terms of stats, it does do 30 cryo damage, again using those cryo cells, a fire rate of 127 and fully automatic, a range of 119, accuracy of 57, weight of 15.7, and a value of only 174 caps, which is pretty low considering how unique this weapon is. But if you want to find this thing, because again it is unique, you can actually find this one in the Institute at the shooting range in the Advanced Systems area. In terms of animations, as if you couldn't already guess from the profile of this weapon, this thing does use combat rifle animations, but they do look pretty nice. Again, sporting some similar iron sights to the Institute Defender, these things definitely do work, but you do have the option to throw on other optics at the weapon's workbench. The animations all do line up pretty nice. I'll go ahead and let those play for you now. And because this does use the combat rifle animations, you can use any replacers like War Daddies, for example, as shown on screen now. For our next mod, we've got something a bit wacky, and that is the Sonic Emitter. This is going to let out a crazy sonic burst as its projectile, but it is still going to use those small energy cells as its ammo type, and you can see them connected down here. This is actually going to use 10mm animations, which is pretty interesting, but it actually looks really nice in first person. This thing has a base damage of 30, has a fire rate of 23 in semi-automatic, a range of 83, an accuracy of 63, a weight of only 3.3 pounds, and a value of 165 caps. And I gotta say, I really like this one. It's definitely one of the more unique weapons in this pack, and it's a lot of fun to use. As for the unique variant of this weapon, we have the Ear Bleed, which on top of the sonic effect is going to have targets bleed for 25 points of additional damage. The idea being that I suppose the sound waves are so incredibly intense that it's literally causing the opponent's ears to bleed, which is pretty funny. This thing has a damage of a whopping 380, which is absolutely insane. It's supposed to be taking the idea that you modify this to have the absolute best possible attachments, but also you're using the overcharged small energy cells instead of just the regular ones. You're going to have to craft these over at the chemistry station using some of the regular small energy cells and some other additional parts. This one, like the other uniques, is not modifiable at the workbench, so this incredible damage comes as is. If you want to get this thing, you can actually find it in the Synth Retention Bureau, so it's not too terribly hard to get, as you really just need to get into the Institute. But this thing does also have a whopping value of 7,760 caps, so it really depends on your preference. Do you want to keep this thing for some incredible damage, or do you want to sell it to make a pretty good profit? The choice is up to you. Now, as far as animations go, like I said earlier, this thing does use the 10mm pistol animations, so I'll go ahead and show those off now. Everything with this one lines up really nice as well, and looks altogether pretty cool. Now, finally, that brings us to the last weapon in this pack, and that is the Institute Tesla Cannon, the one that I'm sure most of you are wanting to see showcased in this video. This is going to be a nice little homage to the classic Tesla Cannon weapon from Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, and this thing is just super cool. This has a base damage of 100 energy damage, uses fusion cores as its ammo type, you can see it plugged in on the end there. Has a fire rate of 12, a range of only 11, an accuracy of 63, a weight of 42.5 pounds, and a value of 987 caps. Now, I'm curious if the range is not intentionally low like that, because that is pretty crazy. The drop off on damage is going to be pretty intense with this weapon if you're trying to shoot something far, like say a vertibird. But interestingly enough, that super low range carries over to the unique variant known as the Sentinel's Thunderstorm, a Brotherhood of Steel version of the Tesla Cannon. This thing has a base damage of 200, again using fusion cores. Most of the stats here are the same, except this thing has a weight of a whopping 43.5 pounds and a value of 3,112 caps, and sports a nice Brotherhood of Steel paint job. Pretty cool if you are playing as a Brotherhood of Steel member. You can download this mod to have some cool weapons to fight against, and also a cool new unique to obtain as part of the Brotherhood of Steel. And if you want to get your hands on the Sentinel's Thunderstorm, it can be found in the Vertibird wreckage in the Glowing Sea. When it comes to leveled integration, this one will spawn at the highest level of any weapon in this pack, and it will be found after level 25. So definitely be on the lookout once you hit that level to find yourself a nice new heavy weapon on some of the Institute synths. In terms of animations, as to be expected, this does use missile launcher animations, and this thing is absolutely massive in your screen. It will take up a good portion of it, but it does do some pretty insane damage. I'll go ahead and let the animations play for you now so you can see it all functioning. Now then, let's briefly talk attachments over at the weapons workbench. Since we do have 4 weapons to cover, I will try to be as brief as possible. With the Institute Beam Rifle, you do have a handful of receiver options, starting from standard and going all the way up to overcharge, giving you a nice damage boost from 50 up to 75. For barrels, we have the standard and automatic barrel. No changes visually, but it does convert this thing to automatic. For stocks, we have the standard stock, the light stock, and the heavy stock, which do have some nice cosmetic changes as well. For magazines, we have the standard, extended, and extended Mark II. The extended Mark II giving you a nice change to a blue cell, but it doesn't actually change the ammo type. For sights, we have the standard iron sights. We do have a reflex sight option, a short scope, medium scope, and long scope, and a short recon scope and a long recon scope. And then finally, for muzzles, we have the option for no muzzle, a beam focuser, a beam splitter, and a beam compensator. And then for the Institute Defender, we do have some different capacitor options from standard up to advanced, giving you a damage change from 28 to 38. For the emitters, we have the standard emitter, a stabilizer barrel, and a sheathed stabilizer barrel. For grips, we have the standard grip and a comfort grip, which gives you a cool little Institute logo down there. And then for the battery, we have standard up to overcharged, giving you some different damage increases. The standard has 28, and the overcharged has 63. Combine that with the capacitor to get some pretty crazy damage. And then finally for sights, we have the standard iron sights, a reflex sight, and a scope. Moving on to the Tesla cannon, we only have a couple of options here. Starting with the magazines, we have standard, boosted, maximized, and overcharged, which is going to increase your damage from 100 to 200, but severely reduce your fire rate. For sights, we only have a couple of options. We have the standard sights, which is basically no sight, and then the addition of a laser sight, which actually uses the mesh that I made for the lever action shotgun. Now, the problem is that the laser sight doesn't actually show up right now on the standard version of the Tesla cannon. My guess is they forgot to change out the NIF, and that's a really easy fix. I'm sure it'll be patched soon. But the laser sight does show up on the unique version of this weapon, so if you do want to try it out, you can use the unique version and still see it in action. And then finally we have the prongs section where we have standard prongs and stabilizing prongs. No change to the model, but it does add a nice accuracy bonus. And then finally we have that sonic emitter. For receivers, we have standard up to experimental. Advanced is going to give you absolutely no change to damage, but the experimental will give you a huge increase from 30 to 330, and it's going to make the projectiles explode. So yeah, talk about overpowered. For emitters, we have the standard emitter, calibrated emitter, and extender emitter. For the grips, we have standard and comfort. For the batteries, we have standard up through overcharged. And then for the sights, we have the standard iron sights and a reflex sight. And now then, because we are talking about weapons today, we need to do our damage test. Now, we'll be running 4 tests today against 4 different death claws, but instead of doing the standard, checking out the regular version of the weapon compared to the fully upgraded, since we do have 4 whole weapons to check out, we're just going to skip straight to the maximum upgrades, but with no perks, just to test out what the weapon is capable of using the best attachments at the weapons workbench. So, for starters, let's talk about the Institute Defender. Now, this thing's pretty interesting. When fully upgraded, it has tracking capabilities, as well as a different sort of projectile than the laser, and it only has a 6 capacity for the magazine. So let's see how it does. Not too bad in terms of damage. I'm actually going to not track. I'm going to let that go away, because I want to aim right for his weak point. If I can actually hit it. And that Deathclaw almost died. Honestly, blame me for him not dying in 12 shots. So this thing fully upgraded should take you about 12, more like 6 if you max out your pistol perks. Now then, let's see how we do with the beam rifle. I believe I have this in fully automatic. This thing should absolutely shred through this Deathclaw. And I'd be correct. And that was really, really fast. And it only took 12 shots, much like the last one, except much faster, because again, this thing is in full auto. Now, how about the Tesla cannon? And we are using the unique variant. They have the exact same damage as the fully upgraded regular version, and it's got the cool little laser sight. Look at that. Now then, aiming for the Deathclaw's weak point, let's see how it does. Alright, not too bad. Only 3 shots to put down a Deathclaw, and you get a total of 20 per fusion core. That's pretty efficient. I dig it. And then finally, we have the sonic emitter. Now, why is this one going last? Well, because this one is the explosive version with the crazy upgraded receivers. So I think about here is safe. Let's see how it does. Huh, not too bad. It has almost double the stat of that weapon there, so I expected it to be doing a bit more damage. But 3 shots to kill, just like the Tesla cannon, and I'm just now realizing the effect of this weapon. All the way back here, I'm taking tons of damage. Jeez, the AoE on this thing is crazy, so maybe this is more for clearing out big groups of enemies rather than single big targets. Good to know. So yeah, that is the Institute Arsenal Overhaul. A lot to cover in this mod since there are 4 really unique weapons and 4 unique variants on top of that, but it was a lot of fun. Definitely could use tiny bits of polish here and there, but beyond that, you get some really cool unique weapons, and you get to beef up the arsenal of the Institute, who desperately needs it in the vanilla game. With that, if you want to try out this mod, it will be linked down in the description below as always, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like these showcases, be sure to let me know by dropping a rating and a comment, and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos just like this. Big shout out to all of my patrons as always for supporting every single video, and a very special thank you to Astro, Captain Chaos, Helljumper, Indecisive Wolf, Jackie Noid, Cushy, Moonlit Gamer, Feed, and Youth RC for signing up for that tier 3 Patreon membership. If you want to try Patreon, it'll be linked down in the description below, but it is completely optional. Once again, thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!